Hey, Ken.
Hey, Ciara, how's it going? That was great. Hey, Afdhel. I have goosebumps right now, so if you see him, excuse me. That was you were wonderful. I mean, being a father of two daughters, and having folks like yourself out there, paving the path for them and their future. Thank you. So, um,
Ken, one thing on that one is I have two boys, and my boys could not be more proud of all the work we do to support female founders. And every time we're in the store, they'll find our Stacey's Rise bags. They'll go, Mom, look, it's the bags for the female founders. So I love that it drives confidence for young girls and for women. And I also think it's so important with amazing male allies like you that you're part of the program.
that's great. That's great. Hey, Afdhel, thanks for joining us.
Hey Ken, hi. Yeah, ditto, Ciara. Great presentation. Love seeing the journey that you guys have been on, and delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Not at
Great,
all. Lovely to
great.
be here.
Okay, let's get started. Afdhel, let's actually we got to hear from Ciara and everything that she had just had to say. You've got a couple things going over there. You've got a company called Conspiracy of Love.
Yes.
So just give a little background. I mean, you've written a book, and so why is your company called Conspiracy of Love? And tell us a little bit about how you fit into what Ciara
Sure.
just was talking about.
Yeah. So thanks for having me, guys. I've been a fan of brand innovators. I've actually come to some of the events in New York City. I would say like the first half of my career, I worked in marketing departments at Procter and Gamble and Nokia in the UK, in London, and then at Heineken and Absolute Vodka in New York. And so I've sat in all of your shoes and done everything you guys have done. Make advertising, buy media, PR, social, everything else. And I kind of got to a point in my career where I was hungry for more, and I started looking around for what inspired me, and that led to me writing this book, Good is the New Cool, Market Like You Give a Damn. Sorry for the plug. And that came out in 2016, and that was really the catalyst for me to leave corporate life and set up Conspiracy of Love, which is a brand purpose consultancy. We are hyper specialized. We only do three things. We help companies either discover and articulate what their purpose is. We help companies and brands then design purpose-driven initiatives. So things like the Stacey's Chips event, not that we did that, but initiatives of a similar nature, which go beyond advertising and really kind of generate social and environmental impact. And thirdly, we also help companies inspire personal purpose in their employees, which is, Ciara was just talking about, is really the secret sauce. That's the benefit, but it's also the thing that separates truly great purpose-driven companies from everybody else. And the reason it's called Conspiracy of Love is it's almost a metaphor. When people ask us what love has to do with business, we say, well, don't you want to have a brand that everybody loves? Don't you want to create a workplace where people say, I love coming to work? So love is actually quite important in business. But the definition of the Conspiracy of Love is all the many, many people like Ciara, and I'm sure many people on this meeting, who are kind of secretly working inside companies to help them be successful and also be good, to be a force for good and a force for growth. So it's this massive community that has now been built around the book that we're fortunate to be part of. That's the real Conspiracy of Love.
Thanks. Now, Ciara, what do you think of Afdhel's hat? Does it sum it up for you and your presentation in a few words there?
I love it. And look, I'm going to give the book another plug because it's on my desk as well. I'm a bit of an Afdhel adorer, Ken, as I told you when we did our warm up. And the funny thing is when Afdhel talks about warriors and co-conspirators, we were introduced by the lady I mentioned during the presentation, Susan Gornell, who's our lead designer, and we're all in the love together. And it's so true, Ken, because this isn't one of those academic things that you do and you learn at marketing school. This is something you have to feel here. And I think more and more people are feeling it here and going, I'm okay getting up to do a day job and I want to work hard, but it has to mean more here. And indeed, I believe that with the resources I have, in a large or small organization, I can make a difference. And to the comment, there was a question on the Q&A about how do you convince organizations? I mean, I'm almost at the point of going, do I still have to answer that question? Because I showed all the stats up front, because you sort of need to do that. But it's incredible the impact, as Afdhel said, it can have on everything from employee retention. Our Stacey's brand has never had a stronger year. It's never sold as many feta chips. Is that to do with Rise or not? Probably a bit of both. But I think it is, as Afdhel will talk about, it is the new wave of growth. And it is people who really feel it here and find these people and get them together who can really make a difference. And it's funny, Ken, because I often get asked the question, why do you stay at a big corporation like Frito-Lay? Like, why don't you go off and go and have a consultancy or go work with entrepreneurs? And I say, well, because I think in a large organization like this, with the resources we have, if you choose, you can make a mega difference. And I think that's what John Mackey talks about in conscious capitalism. You choose to do it, you can make massive difference in a large organization with the right intention. So that's what we're trying to do, one step at a time.
Yeah. And I know Afdhel had he posted the other day, he made a great point around, your organization can have purpose and they should, but also there should be room for the employees to have their purpose, that they want to explore, right? Like, so for me, for example, I encourage all of my employees to make time, just like professional education, right? To take time to give back to whatever that organization is. Mine happened to be serving for one of the most beautiful schools in New Jersey. Is all about social diversity and actually raising boys to become gentlemen. That school, and I'll plug them. They're called Princeton Academy. They're located in Princeton, New Jersey. But Afdhel, what did you posted that, and you had mentioned that the other day. I mean, right? Isn't that true? Like, you could have organizations that they have an overall purpose, and then they're supporting their employees' purposes as well, right?
Yeah, so we were actually about to launch book number 2, and it's called The Principles of Purpose. And what we've done is expand our remit to not only looking at the brand purpose idea, but the idea of corporate purpose, right? And what we realize is that in these truly purpose-driven companies like Tesla or Patagonia or any of those, the difference is really this thing we call the purpose flywheel that gets unlocked, where you not only have an inspiring purpose that drives the company forward, but you give space, you create space for employees to then, who are attracted to that purpose, to come and then find alignment with what they care about. It could be diversity and inclusion. It could be sustainability. It could be gender equality. Any of those things. The really smart companies are creating spaces for their employees to bring their whole selves to work. Because what happens is they find another gear altogether. They become more engaged, more motivated, more innovative. I mean, this is the Brand Innovators Summit. Some of the most interesting marketing is happening at the social innovation level as these brands wake up to the fact that their consumers are asking for it, their employees are asking for it, their shareholders are asking for it. So this really is, we think, the next frontier that brands need to master as well.
And Ken, there's a great example, just as I think about it, and I'm only thinking of it now. We did around the election time, politics aside in terms of sides, but around the election time, we had a big push in our organization to encourage people to vote. It's an amazing, it's what a privilege it is to live in a country where you can vote at a certain age, etc. So let's get people voting. And a lot of our team, my team, were talking to me and saying, could we do something? Like, how could we help elevate that in it with one of our brands? So we said, let's do it. Let's not overthink this one and overanalyze it. So Smart Food Popcorn, all about smart kids. We worked with our amazing agency, TMA in Dallas. And we just did a simple social media program, which is Smart Kids Vote. Out you go, here's an opportunity to vote. And that was a great, our team, you can imagine the engagement those people felt when they went, God, I'm part of that. I'm part of that, something that I truly believe in. And my company allowed me to make it happen. It's amazing.
Amazing. After you mentioned your new book, and I know you had mentioned swords and shields.
Yeah.
What and we just talked about warriors, and so what are we talking? What does that mean?
So I'll give you a bit of a preamble to this, right? So, what we believe is that we're in this kind of new era for brands, right? If you think about the progression of how brands marketed and communicated, the first era was really about getting share of mind, and that was around product functionality. This washer is wider, or this has twice the X of Y. That was very functionally driven, right? And then we entered an era of share of heart, where brands started to develop emotional connections with their advertisers, through advertising and kind of forming this kind of affinity that's based on feeling. And what we say today is that great brands today, it's not enough to have share of mind as a great product, share of heart, a great emotional attachment. You need share of spirit. You need to feel like this brand does something good for people and the planet. That's the layer that's now being created in all of these brands, because that layer leads to much higher loyalty, affinity, trial, any metric you want to pick for a brand person to measure. Purpose-driven brands outperform the rest of the competition. In fact, if you Google the business case for purpose, I wrote a Forbes article about this with every single deck and data presentation, just because people kept asking me. So the question then becomes, I get this question all the time, well, if everybody's doing purpose, what's the differentiation? And that's where the idea of swords and shields come in. It's a mantra that our research showed has been used at Unilever a lot of the time. A brand has a lot of shields that it needs to avail itself of. These are defensive topics. It needs to have a shield on sustainability, diversity and inclusion. These are all table stakes for brands. The really interesting work that we do at Conspiracy is figuring out what the sword is, which is the issue or cause that the brand can champion. Just like Stacey's championed the issue of female entrepreneurs, perfectly in sync with the story of the founder, what the brand stands for, the societal problem out there, and finding a way to link it in. So it's a Rubik's Cube each time we go into a company to figure out what that sword is. Because once you unlock it, as you've seen, this has tremendous benefits across the board in terms of growth for the brand, employee engagement, et cetera, as well.
Great. Now, we have tons and tons of brand marketers, right, that are watching and tuning in. And so I love what you said, Ciara, about, the question around, is purpose, should it really be incorporated? Should it really be a thing? And it's like, it's obvious. It really should be. There's too many case studies or too many things that you could point to, because if you're not, you're really not going to be around in the long run. How do you incorporate purpose into your marketing, into your overall marketing and your messaging, right? Actually, it's going to be a question for both of you, but let's start with Ciara. What do you think about that?
I think the most important thing, and not to repeat, but what Afdhel just said is incredibly important, because the closer you keep whatever area of purpose you explore and you dedicate yourself to what your brand stands for, the easier it is, because it will then be symbiotic. It will all show up together. So, for example, because the idea of helping women rise is at the heart of the Stacey positioning, everything we do, from our, creative communications, our social media, from the PR we focus our PR only around March for Women's History Month and November for Women's Entrepreneurship Month. When we go into store, we put, we do special bags at that time of year supporting the female founder cause. So we're doing in-store activation with our messaging on it. So the closer you keep to the heart and the DNA of what your brand is about, to Afdhel's point, the easier it is, because it just flows. Everything you say is about that. The same with the work we're doing on smart food with Afdhel, which is exactly that. We said, we're not a huge brand. We want to do purpose-led work because we believe it's important to our millennial consumer, our Gen Z consumer as well. But at the same time, we don't have enough money to do lots of different storylines. So he's helping us to work out what would the cause be that would be true to your brand, so that every time you show up, you are saying the same message. And that purpose is almost, it's how you show up versus it being a separate purpose-led initiative.
Yeah. And to build on what Ciara is saying, you know, so we're in the middle of that Rubik's Cube process with Smart Food, and it's fascinating, right? To look at the consumer base, to look at culture, to look at the customers, to put together all of these different kind of touch points and find that path through it. That's really interesting. But regardless of what the touch point is, a really valuable piece of advice that we tell everybody we work with is, it's one of the principles in the new book. Its purpose is about being the helper, not the hero. And what we mean by that is, when doing this kind of work, it's really important for the brand to lift up the people that they're helping. So for example, the entrepreneurs that Stacey's is helping, or even more, to make the consumers feel like the hero of this activation, that they're the ones doing something that helps move society forward. All the data shows that millennials and Gen Z, they want to collaborate with brands to do some good. So if brands can help create the platform and create the opportunity and design the programs where they can plug in and contribute, you know, what we call their time, talent, or treasure, you know, that is really the secret. It's about co-creating it with them in a way that the brand will still get the halo effect. They'll still get the attribution, but it doesn't come across as being egotistical. It doesn't come across as being self-indulgent.
And you know, Afdhel, I was just going to ask you that, because I think this is interesting, Ken, because I made the comment, I think in the talk I did, about it's not about winning Cannes awards. Like, this is a whole different approach for a marketer. This is about, as Afdhel said, putting who you're trying to help first, and the consumer will follow. And because of that, the consumer will support you and the growth will come. But it's a big shift. And the last thing, we talk about humility in our team all the time. Humility is the cornerstone of everything we do. It's what would help her versus what do we want to do to show up in a media or in a creative element. And that's a big distinction potentially from how a lot of traditional marketing has been done.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And sometimes, you know, for me personally, one of the things that happened to Mobile Fuse in 2020 that, you know, really brought purpose to light for us. I was always very supportive of individuals and supporting them outside of Mobile Fuse, right? Otherwise, we're supporting our clients and their KPIs. But one of the purposes that came to light in 2020 was, you know, our clients needed to message to consumers and change the messaging, you know, constantly, right? And that became a purpose, and meaning, you know, our purpose was being able to help our clients communicate with their consumers in a quick and an impactful manner, right? Like, so purpose, what I realized, and also from talking to both of you, purpose doesn't necessarily have to mean environment. It doesn't have to mean health. It can mean, you know, helping other companies save jobs, right? Or helping other companies and their customers, right? So I think that's one thing when, you know, I think just from getting to know both of you, that's been really impactful on me, and hopefully that's impactful on the audience. I can't believe we're already out of time. I just all of a sudden Lauren came on. Well, I guess I could go on and on, so maybe we'll side. Just kidding. Ciara and Afdhel, it's been great. You both were great on here. I hopefully the audience, you know, takes away what you both have shared. I know it's been greatly impactful on myself. I've been telling everyone for the last few weeks, you got to join, because I think this is personally was going to be my favorite panel, and not because I'm moderating, but because of both of you. So thank you very much on behalf of everyone attending for your time and sharing your thoughts on this.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Ciara.
Bye.